real estate industry today, commercial, multifamily, what have you. So what are some of the disruptors to the industry today, and what challenge do you feel we face in terms of where we're headed and these disruptors? So maybe we'll start with you.
Sure. So I'm a millennial, and I think so if I didn't mention, I focus on multifamily sales, so that's all I do every day, all days. Deal with property managers, and I think the biggest disruptor, and what was the other question?
Well, just generally, the disruptor, and where, what do you think because of that the challenges are to solve for those?
So I think from the last time I was renting was about 2012, and I feel like the disruptor, just what was hot, was granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, and maybe like a nice pool or gym. And I think just in the last 3 to 5 years, things have really changed. This industry's got a lot of attention from a technology standpoint, a lot of as service sort of platforms. And then I think I'm noticing like Airbnb. I would think that's like a disruptor, not really my area, but I see that be a talk. Now you see folks trying to put in package locker systems because everyone's moving in and buying every piece of furniture through Amazon. So you got Amazon lockers. There's quite a bit. And then of course for me, EV charging, I think that's starting to change the parking facilities and how they think about structuring that. So being electrically equipped, what all that entails, cellular service, I think as a whole being equipped, so that maybe goes into fiber and what that does for buildings.
Great. Brad?
Well, so I was thinking of referencing a few of the things that Anup referenced there, but I think I would make a comment about the real estate industry in general, which is, my opinion is we're pretty resistant to disruption. That there's not been a lot of innovation in regard to specifically related to tech in our industry. We obviously are changing the amenity offerings that we're putting forward to attract tenants, but I wouldn't say they're necessarily disruptive technologies when we look at the core of our business. In terms of disruptors to our industry, New touched on it with Airbnb. I was going to say WeWork has the potential for that. The whole co-working movement, there's not just WeWork. Now there's Firm Space here in Austin, which is kicking off. CBRE just announced their own co-working platform that is a different business model called HANA, which is I think has the potential for that because it would be driven by the ownership versus a traditional tenant lease, which is an interesting concept. It's just now rolling out, so we'll see how that goes. But by and large, not a lot of disruption. I think a lot of that is attributed to most of our investor clients are institutional, and they like to do things the traditional way because there's a long proven history.
So it's an old industry.
Bunch of guys in sport coats, right? It's more millennials. Without a sports coat, I think. Okay.
So what I think actually has been really changing the face of the industry is the growth of companies right now, especially in the technology industry. They've been growing really, really fast. And I think Brad has probably seen this too, that there's not necessarily enough space ever for a lot of companies that are in this hyper-growth phase. So as he was speaking about some of the WeWork spaces or the co-working spaces that we have there, you're starting to see a lot of these more established companies starting to use these because they're having to use them as these kind of temporary swing spaces. So as they're starting to use them for those spaces, they're having to offer these amenities that they would be offering if they were in their individual offices by themselves, while they were using them sort of one at a time.
Just to tack onto that, because it's an interesting point that we see very much of that where tenants in hypergrowth mode need to grow immediately, and they don't know how long they can commit to a space, and institutional landlords want that long-term commitment because that's financeable and sellable on the market, but that short-term income stream with high capital investment up front is very tough to monetize. So that's where WeWork's operating, is in that space.
Yeah. So I think it's a good point in terms of the long-term view. And so as you guys sort of think about, again, question for all of you, and maybe Brent, we'll start with you on this one. In terms of specific technology that is really being introduced as an amenity, where do you see that headed? What do you think is sort of disrupting and or potentially hurting real estate value in general? And where do you think we're gonna go in the future as more and more of these Silicon Valley-esque type of companies are introduced?
I think one of the things that especially, I'm not going to keep saying millennials over and over again, but millennials specifically, I'm a millennial, so I can say that, right? Old millennial, but I'm in there somewhere. But I think one of the things is a lot of generations are caring more about their personal comfort and also caring about their well-being generally within a space. So I think when a space is built out, you're looking very strongly at how that space is comfortable for the occupant. So as we were looking, if you think of kind of some of the older offices that were built 15, 20 years ago, you see fluorescent lights. Most people are pretty adverse. I think almost everybody in this room would go, I hate fluorescent lights, whether they've worked under them or not, just because they kind of have a negative stigma up there. So people are more hyper-aware of what's going on in the world. When you think about, we'll continue on lighting real quick. So when you think about lighting, most people know what they want in kind of lighting through space. They go, oh, I don't want glare. Oh, this is too blue for me. This is too orange. I think 20 years ago, we weren't really hearing people say that because that option really was not available. So when looking at when spaces are built out for technology companies, it's looking at the cost associated with it for a more sophisticated user base.
So I'll cover a few. I think by and large on the multifamily side, we're very focused on delivering connectivity throughout the development, whether that's in our shared spaces, indoor or outdoor within the unit, and then